Howdy, howdy, howdy. This is Trevor. I need a title card for my videos, don't I? Back with another restoration. Today we're doing a Lesney Opel Diplomat. Being from America, I don't know much about the Opel Diplomat, but my parents owned an Opel Manta when I was a kid, and I loved that car. So we're going to paint an Opel green the way an Opel should be, because when I was a little kid, the Opel was green. So I love green Opels. So I bought two of these. One of them has been hilariously painted and is missing the hood. One of them is in original condition but is significantly play worn. You can see it's kind of a greenish gold color. The hood opens on these cars. It's got that legendary tow hook. It's a four-door kind of sedan. Here we are drilling out the rivet posts. It's like my favorite thing to do. It's so relaxing. Just bring, a dozen cars down to the basement and just drill them out. Yep. Oh, this is the other one. I drilled out both of them. Don't ask me why, because I'm only going to restore one of them. But we did both of them. This is the one that was painted by a kid. The base is in significantly worse shape. So here we are tearing them apart. And it's just the one rivet in the back. So it just kind of, I guess if you're careful drilling the rivet, it just kind of pops out of place. And you tear it apart. It's got a little clip in the front, like a little tongue. Tearing this thing apart was weird because the interior is clipped to the base, but at the same time, it's also clipped to the back rivet. So, I mean, the whole thing is held together really well. So that you can see the rainbow one that I took apart. I had a lot more trouble taking it apart. The engine's kind of this chromed piece of plastic. It pops out, and then you have to pop the interior off of the base. And here's all my parts. So to take the windscreen out, the windshield out, the window unit out, you do have to drill that out. So I just used a drill bit, and with my hand, I just kind of turned it. We just wanted to take enough metal off to pop the window out of place. And it takes a little longer doing it this way, but I didn't want to drill through the hood, or sorry, through the roof of the car. Make this more work than it needs to be. There we go. Successfully got one out. Now I stripped this with Citrus Strip. I use Citrus Strip, and I also sometimes use drain cleaner, caustic soda. That's just made out of 100% lye with boiling water. But today we used Citrus Strip because I think this was the only one that I needed to do. So instead of whatever. And this might actually be the first car that I used Citrus Strip on. I don't remember. But, I thought that Citrus Strip was this like all natural citrus based wonderful thing of science, and then I find out that I think it's just paint stripper that they add like a citrus smell to. I don't know. I have no idea. But I use an old toothbrush. I mean, not the toothbrush that I use to kind of paint the Citrus Strip all over the car. I apologize for the cough. And we let it sit for a while, and then we came back in and cleaned it up a little more. Oh, you know what it is? I put the rubber glove on. Safety first, Trying to get it in all the nooks and crannies. The paint actually did not come off of this car easily. Here we are trying to wire wheel it up with a little brass wire wheel on my motor tool. And the car that I'm going to restore is the one that did not have a hood on it. I bought a reproduction part hood for it. We're going to keep the greenish gold one for another day. I did use the windshield out of that one. But that might be the only part that I transferred from one car to the other. And we still have the other one laying around. But you can see a little bit of goldish green paint. The enamel that whatever kid used to paint it with came off pretty easily. But then the greenish gold paint underneath it did not come off as easy. You can actually still even see some there that I had to go back in and... Wow, sorry about that again. That was rude. But, yeah, cleaning this car up. And the more I was cleaning up the casting, I was like, man, this car actually looks like kind of a muscle car, man. I mean, it's a four-door, but hey, who says a four-door can't be fast? Doing a little research on it, I find out that these Diplomats sometimes came with a little V8 in them. So, hey, the Europeans got a really cool little muscle car out of it. And, you know, this is the casting pretty well cleaned up. I did use 2 files there to clean up along the rear fender because there's some casting lines in it that were kind of nasty. Here we are putting a little warm water and soap to clean up these parts. I did clean up the engine that goes in there. I did not put it back in. You'll see why in a minute. But here we are cleaning up the interior. The tow hook on this plastic piece is busted off, so you'll see that I trim it up to make it not so obvious. And again, the window unit that I used was actually out of the other car because the window unit from that car had a little bit of paint on it, and I was not yet versed very well in taking paint off of the clear plastic. Here are the original kind of Diplomats. Very European, like, kind of lights on the front, kind of composite headlights, which was not common in America till the late 1980s. This also came in a super fast style with the different wheels on it, a little bit more goldy. Now, what I did was I bought this replacement part on eBay because I'm in America and there's not a lot of parts available in America. It seems like I have to import them either from Australia or the UK. So I bought this hood. It doesn't really click in right. I think that the hinges were already broken on the casting that the pins would go into. So I used a little bit of tester's putty and I just kind of glued it in place. Because I gotta have the other one that's in great shape. I mean, it needs paint, but I figured, you know, whatever. So we super glued it to kind of fill the gaps. We're going to paint it sort of a seafoam green. I wanted to paint another car in the future seafoam green, so I bought this green. Here I'm kind of test fitting the stuff back in to make sure that even though I glued the hood in place, that everything else fits okay. Now this is one of the first times, I believe this is the second time, that I've removed old Matchbox axles. And so I used the motor tool and the little, you know, grinder bit on the end to blast them off, or to kind of just take the mushroom head off of the original wheel installation. Then the wheels kind of pop off, and you can see the base is in bad shape, but the wheels actually had some paint on them too. Here are the 2 axles. They're in pretty good shape. They're straight. They're not really rusty at all. I do clean them up a little bit, but there it is. A better shot of the base. It kind of sat on the shelf for a while because I did not strip it at the same time because I had to, you know, take the wheels off. So use citrus strip on this too. And here we are putting the base on a little clip to primer it. I really regret, if I regret anything on this restoration, I regret not leaving the base just bare metal silver base. I actually think it would look cool, but I had already put the wheels back on when I decided that, and I don't want to, I don't know, putting the wheels back on these things is kind of a pain in the butt, pounding them in place. So here we are, first coat of primer on the body, and this is where I found some different errors in the like the hood. This replacement hood had a bunch of divots in it. I don't want to call out the guy that made it, or I guess I don't know that the guy that sold it to me made it, but it is not a very good part. It doesn't line up very well. And we just used a little bit of, I think this is 250 or 220 sandpaper. You can see a little paint on the wheels. I put them on the ends of the clip picks that I use, and then put those inside the helping hands. And I painted them flat black, just brush painted them using a little Tester's flat black. brush paint. And they came out looking pretty good. So here it is after the paint. I think they look a lot like the ones on the other cars, so I feel like flat paint was the paint to use. And here they are drying. It's my drying rack. Oh, here's a part. This one's out of order, but here's a picture of the wheel before I painted it. You can see a little orange paint on it. So here we are after the second coat of primer. No, wait. This is after I painted it green. So the green that I used is a green that was made to paint. It's a Tamiya paint. It was made to paint apparently aircraft models. So it's not very glossy. And I didn't really think of that, but it's matte. It's not flat, but it's just not shiny. Semi-gloss maybe. And so then I hit it with some Tamiya clear gloss. So here are my, oh my gosh. It took me forever to get these axles on, to get the wheels back on. And I'd watched some instructional videos on it, and I just didn't have a lot of specialty tools. So I used I think it's a nickel or a quarter or something to kind of set it on to use as an anvil. And then I used this really light little hammer, and then I used a little more substantial hammer. And I think I ended up bending the axle the first time. Because I just couldn't get the mushroom head to reform. And so I had to take the axles back out and rebend them. And I finally got them in place by taking them down to the basement to my vise and using the little ball peen hammer and setting the axle, the rounded part of the axle on the anvil part of the vise, and then tapping it, as lightly as I could with the ball peen hammer. And I got them back in place, but it was not without significant struggle on my part. Man, like, woo. All the little Matchbox cars that I've bought over the last couple months and over the year or whatever to restore, it's like I'm not looking forward to taking these axles off and putting them back on. So first you got to clip the interior unit into place on the base. And then you have to put the back on, the front on first because it's got the little tongue. And then put the back on, but you got to make sure you clip the interior over the post. And it went in place. And the car actually sits kind of low naturally, which I thought was kind of cool. But you can see I did a little chrome work on the taillights, and then I did the ultrafine Sharpie. I did the bumpers in Malolo Chrome pen. I did the front grille in flat black and the signals and the headlights with chrome, and then with an orange ultrafine Sharpie. And here was the result. And you can see after painting it with the clear coat, it looks a little better. But do not attempt to adjust your set. This is a Streaming Freedom video. This cable hack cannot be stopped. It cannot be traced. And it's the only free voice left in the city. Just kidding. That's from Dark Angel. These cars look cool. When I was looking up Google search on these cars, they look cool, man. Like, people are making hot rods out of these cars. They look like Malibus or Chevys that we'd restore here. So I decided that my restoration wasn't good enough. So I bought another can of a pearl green and I just painted right over the top of the other green, figuring if I didn't cover it perfectly, it's already green underneath. So just a little bit of green over the top of it. We just wanted to make it more green, to just make it more brilliant. I felt like it needed more color. It looked very blah. The paint that I bought was just very blah. So now you can see it's a little more pearlescent. So we take the parts back out of the box. This was the first one that I restored, made the video for, and then went back in and made a second piece of the video. So here we are reassembling it for the second, and I guess I'd have to say final time, with just a better green. I got to admit, it needed a change, and I changed it. And this is the little driver I made. I took the Allen head, the 51 thousandths Allen, cut it in half, and then put it inside the chuck. So yeah, it looks so much better. So much better when it's a slightly more brilliant shade of green. It's still Slightly nondescript as a car, but just a color that looks more 1960s. It's not quite as goldish green as the original. Again, we still have that car. We'll probably restore that when I get a color this closer. And thanks for watching.